start whenever. Okay, so are we gonna go? Yeah. Thumbs up if I can turn the side. Muy bien, muy bien, muy bien. All right. Our objective today is students will be able to understand the psychology of evil by identifying key features of the Milgram experiment and by completing notes. So today, period 3, we are talking about evil. The psychology of evil. Evil. This guy, he was 27 years old, his name is Stanley Milgram. He actually studied the reasons why people follow authority, so it's very important. He wanted to figure out why did the Nazis follow Hitler so easily. That was his whole thing. Is it because they were dressed in Nazi uniforms and they're going to believe them? That was the only case for this, in terms of Milgram. Okay. Oh wait. Has anybody heard of the Milgram experiment? No. Okay. So he was known as, famous quote. It may be that we are puppets controlled by the strings of society, but at least we are puppets with perception, with awareness, and perhaps our awareness is the first step to our liberation. So his whole thing was saying, why do people always follow people with authority? He wants people to question their parents, question doctors, question prison guards, question teachers. That was his whole thing. So he set up this whole experiment to see how far someone would go to injure someone else just because an authoritative figure told him. So we're going to go over, I'm going to show you a clip. So it's all about questioning authority. So before we start, I want you to write this. Perpetrator, and ethics. Perpetrator. Sorry, my bad. A person who commits an illegal, criminal, or evil act. So period 3, in the Holocaust, who would be considered the perpetrators? The Nazis. So again, this whole experiment is examining why did the Nazis exterminate the Jews? Again, who did they blame? Also, who did they blame as the reason why they killed? Hitler. What was the name of the trials? The Nuremberg trials. Very good. Ethics, moral principles, right versus wrong, that influence a person's or group's behavior. So this guy, Stanley Milgram, period 3, he was seen as having questionable ethics. So he would have people, which we're going to explain a little bit in the experiment, 3 people, someone of authority figure, a teacher who was in charge of shocking the other person if they got an incorrect answer, and then the other person who was strapped onto the electrodes. So he wanted to see how far can I make this subject, this teacher, shock the person when they get it wrong. The whole thing is about, are you willing to obey someone who has authority just because they have authority? Like you guys are all listening to me right now, because you know that you guys are supposed to be listening to me. But why don't you question that? Because you're good. Some of us feel like we were raised like that. Because you have to have respect. This is how you always acted, or supposed to act in school. So this guy, Stanley Milgram, always questions that. Lastly, obedience. Right. Obedience occurs when you change your opinions, judgments, or actions because someone in a position of authority told you to. Like the Nazis, that's how they said, well, Hitler told me to. I was just following orders. So then it becomes who has responsibility for what happened. That was Milgram's basis for this experiment. Just because you have changed in some way does not mean that you now agree with the change. You're just changing because someone told you to. So in this experiment, the guy who was shocking people who got it incorrect, he was like, well, do I keep going? The questioning, if he could just still shock the other person. And the guy with authority, yes, keep going. Because he has authority. So when do we become an upstander? When do we stand up? When do we question authority? But if we don't question authority, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be chaos. But he argues that everybody's evil based on your setting. That's his argument. Everybody's evil. You might be nice, might be a straight A student, you might go to church. That's just because of your surroundings. If you're put in a specific situation, like the Nazis were, regular citizens, doctors, they became evil. So you guys are all evil. According to Stanley Milgram. Some of you guys show it more than so Milgram's experimental question. Right. Escribe. Under what conditions will people carry out the commands of an authority figure, and when will they refuse to obey? So Milgram only really studied why Nazis let it get that far. How do you get someone who was a teacher or professor to massively kill 6 million Jews? So again, all of these people, well, they're just saying, well, I'm just following orders. So who's the responsibility? Who holds responsibility? So people say Hitler, but did Hitler, what's a key issue with Hitler?
Power.
Power, and he wasn't where? He wasn't physically killing. He never set foot in what? A concentration camp. So whose fault is it? If one person said, well, it's his fault, because he told us to, but he never actually committed the act, some argued that he wasn't a perpetrator. Alright. Okay, questions, comments, concerns? Milgram's experiments. Listen up, gentlemen. So I'm not advocating that you become more evil because it's inherently in you, according to Milgram, but this is where, this is the basis of the experiment. Thumbs up if I can move on. I don't see everybody's thumbs. Well, yeah. Okay, so Milgram's obedience study. So obedient is to follow directions. So there was 40 male subjects, period 3, 40 male subjects, told the experiment was to study effects of punishment on learning memory. So again, it was just these little grammar questions. So that was one person. Anybody can see. So this is one of the persons. This is all the electric shocks. So we're going to go over it. There's actually a picture of it on your closed notes. The teacher, the subject, is to increasingly shock learner for wrong answers. So this is the teacher, the subject. So that's the person in the middle on your notes. So he was told he needs to shock people every time they get it wrong. So there's 3 people involved. There was the authority figure. He's the one that said, keep shocking them, keep shocking them. The person who's actually shocking, and the other person who's getting shocked. But they faked it. They weren't really getting shocked. So they were only like fooling the teacher, the subject, the guy in the middle of the paper.
Acting.
So 15 volts was a slight shock, and 450 volts XXX. So that's like potentially lethal. What's lethal mean? Deadly. So the learner is strapped into the chair and electrodes attached to the arm. So this is the learner. So on your paper, you can see he's a guy that is attached. You can see that cord. So this guy's actually going to fake like being in pain through pre-recorded sounds. So it's only to test this person. So I'll explain it now. So not actually being shocked, but teacher, the subject, don't know this because pain sounds are pre-recorded. So that's a lot to deal with, so let me break it down. This is the teacher, the subject. Right here is all the electric shocks. This person is connected. He saw this person before he sat down. This person is going to fake that he's in pain. And this lab coat guy, the authority figure, is just keep going, keep going, keep going. So all the time he thinks that he's hurting them as he keeps shocking them. And the whole study period is to determine at what point are you going to stop listening to that person. He argues that, well, I'm always going to listen to him. I trust him. He's in control of the study, of the experiment. So some people, you're going to see that they're laughing when they hear people in pain. Like some Nazis laughed, right, when Jewish people were killed or tortured. Other people kind of question it, but he just goes, keep going, keep going. And you can hear, they're able to hear all the sounds. So this whole experiment, what you need to take from this is that he's questioning why people don't question the authority figure. Just because you're in lab coat, you're going to think that they know everything. If you see a doctor, you assume what? That they're going to save your what? Your life. But it's also questioning that. So you're really going to put all your life, your loved ones, in the hands of a doctor. Why? Are they always right? No, right? So he's just kind of questioning that. Same thing with the Nazis. Why are you putting everything in Hitler? You're just blaming each other. When the teacher would question, so the teacher's this person, he's the one controlling the shocks. Experiment experimenter, this guy, the lab coat guy, the guy with authority, was told that he must continue. So there's times where he's still like, he's hearing them like yell, and he would go, I want to stop doing this. And he just goes, keep going, keep going. I have full responsibility. And he would keep going. It's like saying, okay, as long as I'm not going to get in trouble, I'll still go on with this experiment. So some of you guys would be evil enough to still shock someone if you knew you're not going to get in trouble. Some of you guys say, no, I can't. I don't want to be part of this. Some of you guys will be like, I'm going to go straight to 450 volts and like shock them. Some sound effects going on. Okay. Raise your hand if you feel like you cannot even participate. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you feel like I would believe the experimenter. I mean, he's control everything. A few of us. So we're going to see what certain people do. Can I move on? Yes. Discuss with a partner 2 things you know so far about the Milgram experiment. Go. Talk, talk, talk. You know about the Milgram experiment so far? That's one thing. Based on your notes. What's one thing that we've learned so far about the Milgram experiment? The teacher is told to continue to shock the person. What's another thing, Senya? What's another thing?
That it wasn't actually true.
Very good, that they faked it. So the person that was strapped in didn't feel anything. So that's kind of like twisted, and they don't like that. That's unethical. All right, this is actually the diagram that would be on the shock. So again, there's a slight shock here. There was 30 questions. And XXX is the most severe shock, potentially lethal. What's lethal? Deadly. But were the people actually feeling the shocks? No, but you can hear the screams. If you're the teacher, the subject, in front of this, you heard the screams, the pre-recorded screams. So results surprised everyone. So how many people in total were tested? 40. How many guys feel that 5 people actually went to 450? 5 people. 10 people. 15 people. 20 people. 25 people. 30 people. 40 people fully went to 450. Evil, all you guys. 26 out of 40, 65%, went all the way to 450 volts. Just because the authority figure, make sure you're writing. Just because the authority figure told them to. Keep going. Keep going. Only 5 stopped before 300 volts. So volts are the shocks that the people are feeling. So again, after 40 people, more than half, slightly more than half, went up to 450 volts. But the authority person just said, keep going. And I'm going to show you a little clip that's going to really give you like a frame of how stressful it was for that person. Very stressful for participant, often protested, but still obeyed. So again, after this experiment, they had to see like psychological counseling because they were traumatized. So this whole thing, what I need you to take away, period 3, is Milgram